Hello everyone, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to my afternoon tea time and a card. I'm just going to give it a few more seconds for everyone to join me today. So I am not a Black Friday shopper, so I thought it would be a good time to come in and just do a random stamping for you. Hello everyone, I can see you all coming on. So today I'm going to actually be using the Stamparatus Tool. I know that you've seen me do the mirror image stamping before, but I thought I'd do two more cards, and one of them is kid related. So let me bring that first one in to show you. I'm going to be using the Dino Days stamp set to show you how to do this one. So notice that the dinosaur is the exact same image, but we flopped it over so it's facing in the opposite direction. That's why this is called a mirror image stamping technique. So let me show you what I'm using today. I'm using the Dino Days stamp set. I'm actually using this image, the little branch right here, and then the, let's see, Your Rarsome. Rarsome. I don't even know how to say that. My French tongue doesn't want to turn just right. And then for ink colors, I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black, Seaside Spray, Rococo Rose, Soft Sea Foam, and Old Olive. And for cardstock, the card base, because I'm using Rococo Rose and Seaside Spray, I'm going to change up just layer number 2 on this card. This one has the Seaside Spray, so it's a little bit more boyish. I'm going to use the Rococo Rose on the one I'm making with you today to make it more girlish. So Old Olive 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm just going to fold that on the score line. Rococo Rose 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that right on. I had to go grab my snail off my other table. So these 2 layers will be all set to go. And then we're going to start doing some stamping. Okay, so there's my 2 layers. Now the stamping itself is going to be on Whisper White 5 inches by 3 3/4. What I've done is I've prepared my clear plate ahead of time. And what I initially did is I added my Whisper White. I used the 2 boulder lines right here. Set that right in the center. And then what I did is I placed my dinosaur where I'm saying that wrong. It's for my next card. It does need to go all the way in the corner. So I placed him right here because I knew there would be enough room there for image number 2. So let's get going. First color is going to be the Seaside Spray. I'm going to go ahead and ink the dinosaur. We're going to stamp him right in place. Oh, you know what I forgot to put on here? I forgot to put my little foam mat. Because of the photopolymer, we need the additional height. I might have to redo this one. Let's see if this will still work. I think I might have to ink it twice, only because there's going to be a little bit of a dark spot. Yeah, right here. So let me do that again one more time. This one will just be a little darker. Okay, so by adding ink twice, I fixed it. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab a towel so that I can wipe that off and do the other side. Here's my little container. So I'm going to wipe him clean. Now what I want to do is use the Rococo Rose, and I'm going to do the same exact image. But this time, instead of doing it on Whisper White, I'm going to bring in my silicone mat. And I'm going to get this ready right handy by. I'm going to go ahead and ink up the Rococo Rose. I better move my card because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to stamp right on my silicone mat. And now remember, when we started with the white way in the corner. So as you're stamping this, we're gonna lift this up. We're gonna flip this upside down. Position that over the image. I'm pressing down on the white. That is actually pressing down on the ink that was right here. And notice that because the ink was so wet, I'm going to do it one more time because I want that to fill in those spots. Sometimes when your ink pad is a little juicy, that's what happens. But I have a way to fix that. I purposely kept this ink color because I want to show you how to fix that. Okay, here we go again. We're going to go down. Okay, now what I want to do, there's still a little bit of blotchiness right there. And this is why I still wanted to use this color. I'm going to bring in an aqua painter because sometimes this might happen to you guys where you need to fill in. Just use your aqua painter, bring in the ink and color it. And that way you don't lose your image. So this is a great way to fix the bold image. If your card, you really don't want to throw it away. Because I didn't like the way it looked the first time, but I thought, oh, this would be a good learning experience for you guys. Okay, now I'm going to bring the Stamparatus back in. Remove the silicone mat. Now I want to go ahead and stamp the sentiment. My sentiment has already been placed on my Stamparatus. I'm going to flip it over to the right side. I'm going to ink this up. And there is my sentiment. Now let me put this aside so we can finish up the card. Now another little trick I want to show you today is how I did the two colors of my little branches there using one stamp. So what I did is I actually took the stamp, I'm putting it on the flat side facing me, not the stamp image, the flat side. I'm going to use the soft seafoam ink, and I've gone ahead and cut the dinosaur. I didn't need the head, I just needed the body to use as a mask. I'm going to place that right over the dinosaur's body and with the soft seafoam. Now let me show you what this does if I can find a piece of scrap. I'm just going to bring in a scrap. I'm going to start over just to explain this in case you've never seen this. Okay, so this is the right side of your stamp. It stamps a branch. When you flip it over to the wrong side, it gives you an outline image. So that's what I'm doing with this stamp. Now let me put my mask back in place. I'm leaving just a little bit of the seaside spray so I can see it because I don't want a white space in between. Oh, I almost got my card in the ink pad. So now I'm going to stamp over the mask. So there's my two branches. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to flip this over. And on this one I stamped 3 instead of 2. Okay, so there's the outline. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip this back over to the branch side. We're going to use the mask one more time. And we're going to fill in with the little branch image. So there's, oh, wait a minute. You know what? I want to use a darker ink. Old Olive is what I'm using. And this one won't even show. There, that shows up a lot better. Okay, so there's 2 of my branches. Isn't that neat? It looks like they're tucked behind the body. So now we're going to do this side. Same thing, but 3 times this time. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and remove the mask, and it's just like magic. So now all we have left to do is to assemble the card. I'm going to actually bring that in and glue that down with Stamping Dimensionals. And remember that when we did the second dinosaur using the mirror image, we actually stamped on the back so that the ink would transfer from the silicone mat. So you're going to see this, but it's actually in the same spot as the one on the front. And the next, I'm going to do one more card using this technique, and this one's going to use flowers. Oh, I need my fingernail. Okay, so there's this panel. Now, the last thing I'm going to do here is add some embellishments. And I grabbed these leftover embellishments that I had from the Dino Roar enamel shapes. I had a product share, and these were all leftovers. Now, because I have just a slight smudge on the neck right here, I'm going to add the bird right there instead to cover that. So there, we covered up the little boo-boo. I've got 2 of the little branches that I've added right near the feet. And then lastly, I have some little dots here. And there's gray, the basic gray and the basic black, and I opted to use the black on this one. Okay, so there's card number 1 using the mirror image. Isn't that neat? Pretty easy. So let me show you one more card, and I hope you guys will try this because it is a lot of fun. Okay, let me move my stuff aside and bring in what I need for card number 2. Now, what I did with my Stamparatus, I actually purchased another set of plates so that I'd have 4 instead of 2. So it's very nice that you can just set them aside and then start a new card. So again, we're going to do the mirror image on card number 2, this time using the Soft Spring stamp set and the Greatest Part of Christmas. Now, when I decided what I wanted to do for this card, I wanted to use this large sentiment. That's what I started out with. And then I worked my way around it. So let me show you what the card looks like. Pretty simple, but it's really pretty. So I started by stamping the greeting first. So let me show you what I'm using for cardstock. Soft spruce, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So let me go ahead and fold that on the score line. And then I've got Melon Mambo, 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm going to add that to the front. And these 2 colors look fabulous together. Make sure that's my front. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm using the same size cardstock that I used for card number 1. Now, because one stamp set is rubber, I'm not going to use the mat for the first step. And I've already positioned that. Let me bring the card in so you can see where that's going to go. It's going to go right on the bottom. And I think, let me just make sure, where did I have? Okay, I had that one right on the corner too. I did this about a week ago, so I have to think back to what I actually did. And here's my magnet. Now for ink colors on this one, I'm using Granny Apple Green, Shaded Spruce, and Melon Mambo. So I'm going to start out with the Shaded Spruce. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up my sentiment. Okay, isn't that pretty? I like this just like that. I don't even think it needs any more. It's so pretty. Next, we're going to go ahead, and I've already lined up the branch image. Now this is where it's way at the top of my card. So I actually centered my card just like that. So I've got a block around 3 sides of my, let me make sure. Yep, that's how I did it. So a 1-inch block around all 3 sides. And what I did when I started is I lined up my branch on this side first, as close to the edge as I could. That way it'll work for the second image. Okay, now first of all, I need my foam because of the height of the photopolymer stamp. So let me set that up again with a 1-inch block around all 3 sides. Let me re-ink. Okay, so there's the first branch. Now we need to stamp one on this side. So again, we're going to use the silicone mat. Let me wipe off my little dinosaur. I'm going to place that right in the corner. And I'm going to go ahead and ink with the shaded spruce and make sure I'm ready to go with this. Now you need to be able to see the squares. So I'm lining up with the lines on my grid and I can see them right through the silicone mat. And look at that. I've got 2 branches. Now it looks like a hot mess in the middle here, and that's why I chose to use the ribbon to cover up where all those little branches are. But we're not done. We have to color in our branches. So we got 2 more steps. So again, I'm going to bring this in and line it up with the 1-inch squares around all 3 sides. So there's a lot more steps on this one. It's a little bit more complicated. And when I set this up, I made sure that this was where it should be. And then I grabbed it with my plate. Now we're using Melon Mambo. So I'm going to ink up the little flower image. And this is a watercolor kind of look, so you don't have to be perfect on this one. Now I filled that side in. Again, I'm going to bring in my silicone mat. Ink one more time with the Melon Mambo. Make sure this is handy by. Stamp on the silicone mat. You can see it clearly. I'm going to look for the 1-inch lines on my my blocks. Press down, and I've colored both branches in. Isn't that neat? Now one more step is to do these 3 little branches right up here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over one last time. Again, go with the three-sided blocks on each side. There's my little piece with that, or the little stamp that has little leaves. Granny apple green. Ink up my image. And you can see I colored in half. Now we got to color in the other half. So I'm going to ink the image one more time. Press down. Look for my 1-inch blocks. And there you go. Everything is now colored in. So I can go ahead and move this over. And like I said, I made a little bow ahead of time just to cover up this mess that you see here. And that's going to go right there with the glue dots. Now, because I did move my Stamparatus or the page over just a tad, I missed some of the spots. I'm going to use my marker just to color these in, just to fix that. And you can't tell. I must have been over just a tad too much. So now let me go ahead and stick my bow in place just to cover all of these little branches. And then one last step, I added some bling. And because the Toll Tidings glitter enamel dots are red, I wanted Melon Mambo to go with my Melon Mambo ink. So I'm using the Melon Mambo blends marker. I'm going to color my own. Let's see, I'm going to use all 6 of these. So it makes them, you can see, I'll bring it close. You can see it darkens it up quite a bit. And it's actually going to coordinate with the color of my card. So let me go ahead and glue this in place with dimensionals. And the only reason I add dimensionals to the third layer is just to make it, give it a little bit of height. It just looks so much better than being flat. And that's going to go right here. And lastly, we're going to add the bling that I just colored with my blends markers. And if anybody tuned in late, I'll bring in the other card that I did using the same mirror image technique. Isn't that a nice technique? There's quite a few steps to it, but if it's something that you want to mirror on both sides, it's a great way to do it. So there you go. There's card number 2. And let me grab card number 1 with the little dinosaurs. Aren't those cute? So I hope you enjoyed this a lot more than you would going shopping for Black Friday. I just thought I'd chime in because I was home doing absolutely nothing, just resting. So thanks so much for joining me today, everyone. I hope you have a great long weekend, and I hope to see you next week for a few Facebook Live videos. Have a good weekend.